Obedience to authority can lead to both order and horror. Stanley Milgram believed it was the situation, not the personality, that held the key to understanding why people obey. His now iconic studies revealed how ordinary individuals could commit extraordinary acts when placed in specific conditions. But how strong is the idea that obedience is all about the situation? Let's take a closer look at how convincing Milgram's situational explanation really is. Welcome to Life TFA. It is because this life is lived at three levels: as we think, as we feel, and as we act. I am Amit. I have some experience teaching, training, and talking about behavior, mind, brain, psychology, and psychiatry. I am here to dive deep into these issues with you. Milgram's research shows that subtle changes in the environment significantly influence participants' willingness to obey. When the experiment was conducted at prestigious Yale University, 65% of participants administered the highest shock. When it moved to a less imposing office block, obedience dropped to under 50%. Likewise, when the experimenter left the room or wore everyday clothing instead of a lab coat, obedience levels plummeted. These findings clearly demonstrate the power of external situational cues in shaping behavior. Even participants who appeared morally distressed continued obeying, suggesting they felt compelled by the context rather than personal inclination. It reinforces the idea that most people, under the right conditions, are capable of complying with destructive orders. One of the strengths of this explanation is that it's supported by consistent, replicable data. Milgram's findings have been repeated in different cultures and time periods with similar results. This gives the theory strong reliability and helps generalize its relevance across different settings. Situational variables like proximity, authority symbols, and institutional prestige seem to operate across cultures and historical contexts. However, explaining obedience purely in terms of situational factors doesn't tell the whole story. Not everyone in Milgram's studies obeyed. In his original baseline study, 35% of participants refused to deliver the full shock. This shows that individual differences such as personality traits, moral reasoning, or past experiences also play a crucial role. Some people may have stronger internal values or confidence to resist authority. By focusing mainly on the environment, the situational explanation risks ignoring personal agency and individual morality. It suggests people are almost passive responders to external cues, which doesn't fully capture the complexity of human decision-making. Moreover, critics have argued that Milgram's settings lacked realism. Participants may have guessed that the shocks weren't real, which could explain why some continued. While Milgram insisted his participants believed the setup, later replications and debriefings raised doubts. If people didn't truly believe they were harming someone, then the effect of the situation might be overstated. So what is your opinion? Comment below. Also, feel free to suggest issues that you would like to see discussed here on the channel. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There's also the issue of ethics. Milgram's participants were deceived, placed under considerable stress, and faced moral conflict. While this doesn't directly invalidate the situational explanation, it does raise concerns about whether the findings reflect real-world obedience or artificial responses under pressure. The intense environment may have encouraged compliance out of confusion or fear rather than genuine obedience. In addition, most of Milgram's participants were American men. Cultural norms around authority, hierarchy, and individualism vary across the globe. For instance, research has found higher obedience rates in collectivist cultures, where social harmony and respect for authority are more deeply ingrained. This suggests that cultural context interacts with situational variables, and one-size-fits-all explanations may not fully apply. Despite its criticisms, Milgram's situational explanation has had huge real-world impact. It helps explain historical atrocities such as war crimes and genocides, where individuals claimed they were just following orders. It also applies to everyday situations, how people conform in workplaces, comply with medical advice, or follow questionable instructions from authority figures. Understanding the role of situational pressures has improved training in fields like the military, law enforcement, and healthcare, where blind obedience can have serious consequences. By identifying the conditions that encourage unquestioning compliance, society can put checks in place to prevent misuse of authority. Milgram's situational explanation of obedience remains one of the most influential ideas in social psychology. It shows us that obedience is not just about who we are, but about where we are, who's asking, and how the situation is structured. But while the power of the situation is undeniable, it's not the only force at play. Personal values, moral courage, and cultural context also shape whether we obey or resist. Thanks for watching. If you found this deep dive helpful, give us a like, subscribe, and check out our next video on the Zimbardo prison experiment. Let's keep asking the big questions in psychology, together.